sí. Hola a todos, muchas gracias una vez más por
Okay, now,
participar
yeah.
en
Hello,
este
everyone.
nuevo
Thank you once
webinar.
again for being a
En
part
esta
of this
ocasión
webinar
vamos a estar
cycle.
hablando sobre super apps.
On this
Para
occasion, we'll be
contarles, les
talking
voy a
about
pasar
super apps, and
nuevamente
this
a
talk
Rodrigo
is
Méndez y
going
Leandro
to be given by
Bonilla,
Rodrigo Mendes and Leandro
integrantes del
Bonilla.
equipo comercial de GeneXus.
They
La
are part
dinámica
of the
va a ser la de
commercial
siempre.
team at GeneXus, and the
Vamos a
dynamics
estar
will be as
dando una
usual. First, they
presentación
will
y
be
luego
giving
vamos a tener un
a
espacio
presentation on the
de
topic, and then we will
preguntas y
have
respuestas.
a Q&A session
Antes de
afterwards.
comenzar, quiero comentarles que
Before we start,
este
I'd like to
webinar
tell you that this
está
webinar
disponible
has
en simultáneo
simultaneous
a
interpretation
inglés y
into
portugués.
Portuguese and
Para
English.
tener la
So if you
interpretación
would
deben
like
hacer clic
to
en el icono
use
de
it, what you need to
interpretación
do is click on the
y
icon in the bottom part of your screens and choose the
sin
language
más
of your
nos
preference.
vemos al
So
final
without
con
further
preguntas
ado,
y
see you
respuestas
at the end in the
de
Q&A session,
Rodrigo
and I'll
y
leave you
de Leandro.
with Rodrigo and Leandro.
Bueno, gracias Aníbal. Bienvenidos
Hello,
todos.
Anibal. Thank you so much.
Estamos muy
Welcome,
contentos.
everyone. Thanks a
Estamos
lot for
contentos porque hay
joining.
un montón de
We are so
gente
happy because we have so many
conectándose
people
y
connected
eso
and
nos
still
demuestra
connecting.
que el tema
And that clearly shows
sigue siendo de mucho
that
interés, cada vez más
this
probablemente.
topic
Empezamos
is a hot
tempranamente
topic,
con
even more
con
so
Super
now. We
Apps en
started
GeneXus
very early with this Super
y vemos
Apps
cada vez más interés.
issue,
Así que
and
bueno,
now
la
we're
idea
seeing
hoy
growing interest in
es
this. So our idea
Rodrigo
for today is with
quien les
Rodrigo
habla,
and myself.
contarles un poco de a qué nos referimos, porque muchas veces
We would
genera
like to
confusión
tell
con esto de las
you
super apps, a qué nos
what
referimos, qué es una super app,
super apps means, what they are, and what we
contarles
understand by it.
digamos, cuál es el approach nuestro desde
And
GeneXus
we
con
would
las
like to
super
tell you
apps,
about our approach
algunos
from
casos
GeneXus when it
interesantes
comes to super apps and some interesting cases that we've had over
desarrollo
the
de super
last
apps
couple of years
que se han hecho
about
con
super apps, of
GeneXus.
course,
Y
that have
queremos
been built with
también contarles desde
GeneXus.
el punto de vista tecnológico, digamos,
And we would
cuáles son
also
las
like to share with
características
you some technological information. What are the different
Así que
components
esperamos que esta
of
charla
the
sirva
solution that we are offering? So
para
we hope that this
la
talk will
curiosidad de todos
be
ustedes y una
interesting
conversación
to
interesante
sparkle
con
your
sus
curiosity and some interesting
clientes
conversations as well between you
sus
and your customers
empresas
or in your companies with your teams.
en esto también viene
So
aplicaciones muy
yeah, that
interesantes
you're going to
en
be more
ámbitos de
interested. This has
desarrollo de
some
gobierno,
very interesting applications when it comes to government applications.
empresas, ya lo vamos a ver.
So it's
Pero
not
bueno,
just
para
at company
comenzar
level,
con,
but we will be
con,
talking
la,
about that later on.
con la presentación,
So let's get started with the
acá
presentation.
esto nos parecía que era interesante compartírselos. Yo no sé
We
si
thought
ustedes
this would
saben
be interesting
este dato
for you. I don't know if you're aware of this,
se calcula
but
que
on
aproximadamente
an annual
se bajan
basis, it is
175 billones de
estimated
aplicaciones
that
en estos
175
momentos.
billion
Una
applications
enorme
are
plataforma
downloaded
que se desarrolla en
every
tiempo
year. We're
real
talking
en
about a
celulares y
huge number of
teléfonos
applications that are
y
downloaded
un promedio que
in
hoy
everyone's phones. So as
significa
you
que
can
una
see,
persona tiene
on
aproximadamente
average, a
80
person has more than
aplicaciones
80
en su
applications
teléfono,
installed
de las
on
cuales
their
nosotros
phones,
usamos solamente algunas,
and we
efectivamente.
use 9 on a
Otros los
daily
usamos
basis,
más de vez en
and
cuando,
some
alrededor de
other,
30
well, we use
aplicaciones
them every now and
por
then.
mes. En este artículo
So on average,
veíamos
30
algunos
apps
números
per
más,
month.
pero realmente la cantidad de aplicaciones que hay es gigantesca. Y entonces
The truth
eso
is that the number of applications that we have on our
resulta
phone
en el mundo
is
ya está pasando
huge,
a
and that
profesionales
poses a great challenge for the world.
la tendencia a
It
concentrar
happened
todo
in
en una
Asia a
sola
couple of years
aplicación.
ago, the tendency to have
Tenemos
everything
WeChat, que podemos escuchar. Hay
concentrated
otros
in
como
one application. We will be telling you about
Alipay,
WeChat. You have
casos
some others
en
such as
Asia,
Alipay
pero
and a
¿qué
few
es lo
others,
que
a
entendemos
couple of very
nosotros
interesting
por
cases
super
in
app?
Asia. But
¿Qué es una
okay, so
super app?
what are
Nosotros lo entendemos
these super
como
apps?
ecosistemas
We
digitales
understand these as
de
digital
productos y
ecosystems of
servicios
products and services,
que están contenidos dentro de una única
which are hosted in a
aplicación y que para
single
el usuario
application,
representan una experiencia
and they represent for the user a unified, homogeneous
unificada en lo que es el
user
uso
experience. Well,
de
not
esa
necessarily
aplicación.
homogeneous, but very unified.
Otro dato interesante, Gartner anticipa que
Another interesting thing
en
is
2
that
años
Gartner
el
anticipates
90% de la
that in a
población
couple of years, more than
posiblemente
50% of the
esté
world's population will be
usando varios
most
super
likely
apps.
active daily users of multiple super
Realmente
apps.
es una tendencia que Gartner
And this, of course,
ve
is a
año a
trend
año,
that
muestra en sus informes.
Gartner has been observing for the last
Acá
couple of
uno
years,
se
and it's part of their
preguntará, bueno,
reports. So you may be asking yourselves, who
quién
can
estaría
have a super
interesado en
app?
una
So
super
who
app?
is
Bueno,
eligible, who
en
could be
general nosotros lo
interested
vemos
in
como
a super
aquel
app?
que
And
tenga una aplicación con
we,
adopción
the
masiva
way that we understand it is that those who have a
y
native
quieren
application with massive
mejorar
adoption, that have an
mejorar la
interesting
experiencia
community of
y
users and
pueda
would like to
y
improve
quiera
their
digamos
user's experience,
potenciar un ecosistema de
and
negocios,
that want
es un
to
candidato
boost that
para
business
romper todos estos
ecosystem, they are a
conceptos
great
y
candidate so that we
implementarse como
can
una super app.
centralize all these services and
Esto
be
básicamente
part of one
consiste
super app.
digamos, que ese ecosistema tenga la posibilidad de
This
abiertamente
basically
incorporar mini
consists
aplicaciones de terceros
of having that ecosystem open so that it can
como una
incorporate
super app.
many apps by
Entonces,
third parties within that main
hay
larger
una
application.
competencia, digamos, muy grande hoy en día
So competition is tough nowadays
a
when it
nivel
comes
de lo
to
que es conseguir fidelidad de esos usuarios.
customer
Muchas
loyalty,
aplicaciones con muchos usuarios
and
tienen
sometimes you
esa
have applications
preocupación de cómo
with
hacer para
a very
retener
large number of
a
users
tanta
that are
población
really
y
worried
tanta
about how
utilidad.
to
Y creemos que este tema de
um,
super apps viene
make
a
their
cubrir
customers more
esa,
loyal and that they keep
tema
using that
eh,
application. I think that this
digamos,
scheme of super
la
apps
posibilidad
provides a very interesting answer to
de
that
poder hacer
problem
cross-selling, de
because
poder
it gives
resolver
us
las
the
necesidades del
possibility
usuario en un
to
en un
cross-sell
único lugar.
and to be able to figure out a
Ese
number of issues that one
es un
user may
caso
have
interesante
in one
para
single
uno
place.
a
There
uno
is
de
a
los
very interesting
queremos demostrar
example of
es
this
esta
that I'd like to
aplicación
show you,
que es
which
super
is
app que
this super app
venimos trabajando con el Banco Itaú,
that we've
con
been
Rodrigo ahí.
working with
La idea nuestra
Itaú.
ahora
It's a
es
bank.
con Rodrigo
It's
mostrarles
actually the
esta
largest bank in Latin America, and
aplicación
it's in
que viene
Uruguay. And we would
funcionando
like to walk you through
es
it
un
with
caso
Rodrigo so that you can see it running.
un banco, digamos, un
It's
fintech es uno de
a
los
good
que vamos a
example
ver dónde aplica la
in
inteligencia
fintech,
artificial.
which is one of the many
Vamos
areas
a
where
ver
this fits.
fintech en
Of
general
course, there are many others, and we will
aplicar
talk about that,
inteligencia
but
artificial muy
fintech
interesante para este tema de super
and
apps.
banking companies,
Así
that's
que
a
le
great
paso
place
la
to have a
posta acá
super
a
app.
Rome, a
So now
Rodrigo,
I'll give
para
it over
que
to
nos muestre
Rodrigo,
cómo está el flow
and
de la
he will
aplicación
walk us through it,
de lo que hicimos en este caso.
and you will see what we've done.
Muchas gracias, Lean. Bueno,
Thank you
primero
so
que todo,
much, Leandro.
para
Welcome,
mostrarles
everyone.
directamente cómo es el funcionamiento de una super app y que
I'd
ustedes
like to
puedan
show
ver
you how
de
this
qué
kind of
tratan
super
estos
app
ecosistemas
works,
digitales. Les voy a
and
mostrar el caso
so that you can see what
de
these
pagos.
digital ecosystems are
Voy a
about.
compartirle la
And for that, I'm
pantalla
going to
para que
share with
puedan
you this
ver la
Itaú
aplicación de
Pagos
pagos. La
application. I'm going to
aplicación
share
Itaú
my
Pagos que Itaú
phone
hace
screen where I have my
internamente
app,
y que
and
decidí
this is an
compartirles
already
acá
existing
para
applications
poder
that
empezar a entender
application that Itaú
un
had, and they
poquito
decided to convert it into a super app
utilizar la base de
so that they
datos
could build an
de
ecosystem where they
Itaú
could use the
y
customers'
así
database that they already had,
pasar
and through this super app,
a ofrecerle distintos servicios, ¿ok?
they
Eso
could
es básicamente
offer
lo que están viendo,
different
la super
services.
app que ellos
So
construyeron
what we're
con
seeing
la
here is
aplicación
the
Rodrigo.
super app
Acá
that
abajito
they built
esta
using
aplicación que
GeneXus,
tenían para los pagos de servicios donde los usuarios
where
hacían
in this
algunas
application, where users
compras
were registered
de su
to
hogar o
pay
distintos
for
servicios que
their
podían
uh,
registrar.
different
Ahora les
bills
crearon
and different
este,
services that they could
estamos
register,
hablando de una super app
now
que
they
pasan a
transformed
ofrecer
this into super app, and from there,
donde se integran
they're offering
con
services where you're
distintos servicios.
integrating different
Como usuario de
businesses.
Itaú, voy a poder
So,
acceder y a través
as
de
an
la
Itaú
aplicación
user, what I can do
acá
is use this
también
application,
voy a poder
and I can have
acceder
that unified
de igual
experience, as
forma
Leandro was saying, and I can have
con
access to different
cosas
services.
accesibles
So,
como
what services are we
movilidad.
talking about
Por ejemplo,
that
vamos a
are
poder entrar a
accessible as many
una
apps?
cadena de
We
cines
can
acá en
go
Uruguay,
to the
donde
movie app,
vamos a
which
poder
is
empezar por el
a movie
flujo
theater
de poder
chain in
comprar
Uruguay, where you
una
can,
entrada
for
de
example,
cine
buy tickets
y vamos a poder
to watch a
elegir
movie.
los asientos, ver
You
películas
can choose your
y la comida
seats,
que
you
también
can
vamos
buy
a
your
poder comprar para
drinks,
la función.
also if you want to eat
Tenemos una
something
experiencia
during the
muy
movie.
personalizada
And
para lo
this
que
gives
es
you a very
cada
customized
unidad
experience
dentro de
for
la
each
superficie
mini app
que
within
vamos
that
a
super app.
ofrecer.
So each mini app is
Luego
very
lo que
different from the
estamos
others.
logrando con esto es
And what Ito is
optimizar
doing
toda la
through
base de
this
clientes que
is
tiene,
they are
permitiendo
increasing customer
ofrecer a
loyalty
distintos
by
servicios
allowing them to have access to different
que hay
services
en la super app.
which are
¿Ok?
hosted
Yo ahora lo que voy a
within
hacer
that
es
super app,
continuar con
within their own application. So what we're going to do now is
compra de entradas de
we're going
cine
to move
y
forward.
ya
I'm going
vamos a
to
ver que
pretend that we're going to
esta
buy
aplicación, además
a
que
couple
entró
of tickets to
dinámicamente
go
a
to the
nuestro
cinema,
navegador,
and we're going to see that this application that was
podemos
dynamically loaded,
a través
this
de
means that I did not have to
de
download it from
Itaú Pagos,
the store.
nuevamente
It was
comprar
just
las entradas de cine
dynamically
y
loaded.
poder
It's going to
volver
let me
perfectamente
download
a
and
poder
buy
comprar
the tickets, and that's going to then take me back to the Itaú Super App so that I can keep on
¿ok? Acá nos estamos
using
viendo
it
que
for other
Movie es una
purposes.
muy
What you can
específica
see here is that even
y
though
acá vamos a llegar a un punto
you go through
donde
the
hacemos
flow to buy the tickets on the
asimismo
movie app, you get to this point where the
de
interface
Itaú
looks like
originalmente.
Itau's
Y esto
UI.
se da porque
And
como
this is
van a tener
because
cierta
these mini apps will have certain levels of interoperability with the super app, which is basically going to allow you to have a user experience that is much simpler, where I just needed to log in once. I did that through my Itaú Super App, and the payment method that I have is the one that I have already registered in Itaú. And the only thing that this movie application is doing is uh, asking for payment information. So this is happening at the super apps level where you have already registered your payment method, and the user gets a very simplified, unified experience where you can acquire different services and products in a much easier and faster and more efficient way without having to download a specific application for that purpose. So now, of course, I'm going to cancel because otherwise I would actually be paying for my tickets. And I'm going to go back to the Itaú Payments Super App. And you see that you have different kinds of products and services. We checked out this movie application, but you also have Mosca, which is a local stationery retailer and also like a bookshop where you can see the different products that you can buy and you can add those products to your cart. And the same pattern that we've seen a couple of minutes ago will be repeated. So you don't need to log in again once you check out with your card. You can just choose your payment methods with Itaú, which is basically avoiding a lot of extra work and downloading extra applications, which tends to be kind of tedious for the users. So what's going to happen here is that Itaú will keep on adding, and they've been adding new applications over the last couple of months. They will keep on adding new products and services. For example, Grupo Agencia, which is a logistics and transportation company. Here I can get a ticket, for example, to travel by coach to the different parts of the country, and I can choose my destination, the hours, etc. And this is all figured out within the Itaú application. So each of these mini apps has a very specific flow that allows users to acquire a certain product or service through the very same super app. Glick is a courier agency, and Red Tickets is a portal where you can buy tickets for different kinds of events, such as shows, festivals, games, etc. So as users, you only have one application, which is Itaú Pagos, and then Itaú Payments, and then from there you can access the different mini apps that will be giving you different services. Everything is very unified and very simple for the user. So let's get into further detail to understand how you can create an ecosystem with super apps and what other kinds of experiences we've had. And then we will get into the technical aspect of how GeneXus gives you the possibility to create this kind of ecosystem and the solutions that we offer. Okay, so Leandro, over to you, back to you, so that you can um, walk us through it. Thank you very much, Rodrigo.
Sí, básicamente acá les queremos habiendo visto este ejemplo que nos
So having seen this example that we thought was very graphic and very illustrative for you to get the gist, let me tell you a bit about our approach at GeneXus and how we see this.
de estas super apps para nosotros representan un paso
These super apps for us represent another step in the evolution of applications, and we believe that this is a great opportunity to generate new user experiences, but also to have more business opportunities for those that own the super apps and those potential owners of the different mini apps. And why not the ecosystem as a whole? It's good for developers, it's good for software houses. So I think that this is a great chance. Let's go back to Asia, what I was talking about a couple of minutes ago. And probably WeChat is the largest super app that we have in the world nowadays. It is a single platform where practically any kind of business that is present in China and that hopes to be present digitally speaking needs to have their mini app in WeChat. They're called mini programs. And some very interesting facts. They have approximately I think they have
respecto a la
a
población de China, ¿no?
billion
Y
users,
cerca de
which is
4
practically the
millones de
whole
mini
population of
programs
China, and
dentro
approximately
de
4
WeChat.
million
Ahora,
mini
este
programs,
modelo en
which are embedded
Occidente
in
es más
WeChat.
difícil
Of course,
de
this
replicar.
model in the
Yo
West is not that easy to
quizás me quedo
replicate.
un poquito más atrás en este
In
tema de
fact,
super apps.
I think that we've
Pero
been lagging
surgen,
behind in this
empiezan a
sense.
surgir casos interesantes de aplicaciones
But there are
nicho.
some very interesting
De hecho,
cases of
nacen
applications
con
which
una
are very
funcionalidad
niche.
específica
They were
y
just
se han ido
created for
agregando
one single
otras
purpose, and
funcionalidades
other
adicionales
features
y
have
realmente
been
creando todo un
added
ecosistema, ¿no? En
over
movilidad
time,
vemos,
creating a
por
whole
ejemplo,
ecosystem.
Uber,
In
y
mobility, we have the case of Uber,
funcionalidades, digamos,
or
que han seguido
navigation when it comes
agregando
to
y
Uber
así hay
to
un montón
Google.
de casos. Eh,
And like this,
Nosotros
you
en
have so many
GeneXus lo que
cases.
queremos es democratizar
So what we want to do at
el,
GeneXus is
la
to
construcción de estas super apps.
democratize
Cualquiera que
the
tenga
building
una
of super
comunidad
apps
de
so that
usuarios
anyone that
interesados en
has
una app,
a
cualquiera de
community
los
of
perfiles del
users that
ecosistema de
is
este tipo,
already big enough
pueda,
in an application that they
pueda
can just feel
abrir
free to develop this kind of
nuestra
ecosystem,
aplicación para que
and that they can
terceros
open their application
se
up so
integren a
that
ese ecosistema
third
y
parties can be
creen
integrated in
sus
that ecosystem, and they can create their own mini apps, or
su
maybe
negocio dentro
uh,
de lo que es
have
la
in
super
some
app.
way their
Entonces,
business within
lo
that
que hemos
super app.
hecho es justamente esto, ¿no? Buscar
So what
formas
we
de
have done
democratizar este acceso
precisely
a las
is
super
to
apps.
try to find a way to
Eh,
democratize
a ver,
access to super apps.
sigo un poco más adelante, digamos. Creemos que con este tipo de
So we
soluciones
think
que
that
vamos a
this
detallar
kind of
más técnicamente
solution,
ahora, en
and
unos
remember that
minutos,
we will go through the technical
logramos
details in a
desarrollar
couple of
ecosistemas
minutes,
realmente
uh,
digitales
that they allow us to develop truly
que
digital
replican lo que podría ser,
ecosystems,
imagínense un shopping center,
that they
¿no? Donde ustedes
replicate something that looks like a
atiendan,
shopping center where you can
observarla,
just
probar realmente
go
este
to
tipo,
one
digamos,
place, and from there go
cada
to the
mini app
different
es
shops, and you can
independiente. Esto permite
come in or out
fomentar
and
lo que es
just
la
open or
innovación,
close the door, but
experimentación
they are
dentro de la
very
empresa,
independent from one
porque
another.
pueden ser mini
And
aplicaciones
this
propias
fosters
internas
innovation, experimentation, because it can be
de una misma
your own
organización, de una misma empresa, o pueden ser
mini
de
app within your
terceros.
own company, or it can be a third party's
Nos permite,
company.
digamos, crear experiencias únicas y
This allows you to
instantáneas.
create
Las aplicaciones
unique
corren
and
dinámicamente
instant experiences because
sin tener
applications are
que
dynamically
agrandar lo
loaded
que es la aplicación
without
principal
having
y que se
to
vuelva
make the main application bigger
inmanejable.
to the point where it becomes something that
Entonces
is
se
too cumbersome
consumen,
to
digamos,
manage.
esas mini apps
So you're
y
just dynamically
lo que
loading
buscamos es
many
que,
applications.
digamos, cada
And
vez
what
la
we
aplicación pueda generar más valor,
try
¿no?
to
Que las aplicaciones tengan
achieve
cada vez
is
más valor.
greater value for each
Es una herramienta
application.
que van a ver, es altamente personalizable porque cada mini
You're going to see
aplicación, un
that
poco también
this
ya nos
tool is
contaba,
highly
puede
customizable.
tener su propio
Rodri was
UI.
telling us
Ustedes saben que
about
nosotros
this. You can
tenemos
have your own UI and
especializado en
UX. You
generar
know that
widgets para que
GeneXus
ustedes
allows you
puedan
to do
diseñar,
that. You
desarrollar
can
mini
accelerate
aplicaciones
design stuff
fácilmente con una experiencia
to a
totalmente diferente una de la otra,
very high
porque
speed, and you can have a completely different experience
un
if you
patrón
compare
cierto, las
one
mini
and the
apps
other.
son
There's
parecidas
no single
y es
pattern
simplemente
that
la
makes all mini
validamos
apps resemble one
con una
another,
foto, digamos, del
but
producto, sino que es
it is
realmente una
truly
experiencia
customized,
totalmente única en
um,
cada caso que se puede
and
lograr.
it's very unique in that
Eh,
sense.
Les queríamos mostrar un ejercicio para que ustedes vean también desde el
I
punto de vista de
wanted to
usuario
share with you an exercise so that
qué
as
implica,
users,
digamos, cuánto se simplifica, digamos,
you
la
can
experiencia
understand
de
how this
una super app
simplifies your
y a
experience
través de
when
una
you're
mini
using
app,
a
¿no? Acá el
super app
programa también
and
recibimos
through a
fotos
mini app.
cuando él abría esa
Rodrigo
aplicación de
was
movie o de
precisely
reptiles.
showing you that, right? When as
Nos
he was
ahorró
going through the
muchísimos pasos
different
en
mini
la
applications, when
aplicación
he wanted to buy the
tradicional, ¿no?
movie
Acá
tickets
pusimos
and so
un
on,
ejemplo
that
con
that's
una cadena de
that saves a
farmacias
number of
donde se
steps.
puede
This is,
descargar
for
su
example,
aplicación y hacer una
with
compra ahí. Y este
a
sería el
pharmacy
recorrido que
chain.
podría
You can
hacer
download the application,
un
and this is the
usuario
typical
realmente
journey that you would have as a
16
user.
pasos,
You would
dice, multiplicado
download
por 16 pantallas
the app,
que tengo
and you need
que
to go
instalarme la
through 16
aplicación, tengo que
screens
loguearme, elegir el
because you
producto,
need to download the
después
application, log in, and choose
confirmar
your
la
product.
compra,
Then you
ingresar
need to confirm your
mis datos
purchase.
personales,
You need to enter
para
your personal
verificar la
details, your
entrega, la
payment
compra
details,
y recién
your
el
delivery
producto, saber la cantidad
details. So that means they need to go through
Si lo
a
hacemos a través de una
significant
super
number
app,
of screens. But what if you do it
como
from a
por ejemplo
super app,
Agarrome,
which
ahí
is
sí
what
son cosas que ya están optimizadas,
Rodrigo was
digamos,
showing?
para
Well,
todo el
you will
tema
see
del
that much
acceso,
of that stuff has been
métodos de pago, y
optimized
eso
already,
nos ahorra
payments,
al usuario le ahorra
access, and this is very time
muchísimas
saving for
vueltas.
users. It
Entonces,
makes it much more straightforward.
básicamente, digamos, acá ustedes ven, digamos, en este ejemplo, en 5 o 6 pantallas
And
estamos
as you can
confirmando
see in this example, it takes you what, five,
la
six screens before
experiencia
you can
del usuario.
confirm a purchase. So
Paso a
of course,
contarles un
user
poco cuáles
experience
son los casos donde
is
nosotros
greatly
vemos
improved.
más
So let me tell you a bit about
factibilidad de
those
usar
use scenarios that we
para
think
super apps.
are more likely when it
Puede
comes to
ser
using
a
this
nivel
technology.
interno de una
It
empresa,
may be
puede ser a nivel
within a
público,
company at
o puede
internal
ser
level,
para
it
todo lo
may
que es
be a
fintech
government
y
level, or
e-commerce en
also
general,
for the
donde
fintech, retail,
esto es muy
e-commerce
común. Algunos ejemplos,
companies. I think that this is really, we
In
think that this is
Company,
really a good fit.
Start Me Up es una app que
Uh,
tenemos dentro de
in the case of
GeneXus.
in company, we have Start Me Up, which is
Nosotros es la empresa madre de
an
GeneXus hoy en
app
día.
by Globant. As you know,
Start Me Up
Globant is the mother company
es esta aplicación que
that
usan
acquired
más de
GeneXus a
30.000
couple of
personas dentro de
years
Córdoba
ago. And
para
Start Me Up is used by
diferentes cosas,
30,000 people
principalmente
in
eso, como una aplicación
at
para
Globant. It was born as an
digamos,
application
interactuar
where
con
you
colegas
can interact
de
with
alguna
different
manera,
colleagues
calificar
and
o hacer reconocimientos. Hoy
make
en
an
día, por ejemplo,
acknowledgement
está
or
convertida en una super
rank
app. Es
rate
una
them.
super app y
But
hay
that
una
was
mini app para
made
elegir
into a
distintas
super app, and you
asientos
have, for
en
example, a
aviones
mini
que
app to
cuesta
choose
aproximadamente
the
alrededor
seats,
del mundo. Es una
your
super app
seats or your
que
place
eso
in one
funciona
of the
con
more than
nuestra
50
mini app, se
offices
puede
that they
bajar
have around the
desde
world.
Start Me
That's a
Up
mini
y
app that you
agregar
can
un
just
widget
download,
para agregar otra mini app.
and they can
Es un
just
ejemplo de
add
cómo
and delete different
otro
mini apps
ejemplo
within
de
that super
cómo
app.
ir un poquito más allá
Another in
y
company
muchas veces
example,
abierto una comunidad.
but this is a bit more
El
open, is
sábado,
that
en
in
noviembre
our
de
previous meeting
2023,
in
la
November
aplicación de
2023,
GeneXus del evento
during the
la
GX30 event,
convertimos en Super App y
the
abrimos
events
la aplicación
application
para que
was made
personas
into a
durante el
super app,
Super
and
App
we
participen.
opened that
Nuestros
application so
consultants
that
tenían su
third
mini
parties
app,
could have their own mini apps. So
Qualified
GeneXus
tenía su mini
Consulting
app, nosotros
had
creamos
their own
nuestra
mini
mini app
app,
para conectarnos desde
Qualified
nuestra
had
mini
their
app.
own mini apps. We had
Eso,
a different mini app
digamos,
to connect
creamos
people within the
ese mini
application.
ecosistema
So
dentro de
we
lo que es
created
la
that mini
aplicación del evento.
ecosystem within that larger app that we had for the event.
Aplicaciones a nivel de gobierno, esto está en
At
proceso,
government level, this is
existe
something that is being done. So we have AGESIC,
información
which
digital
is
en
the
Uruguay,
agency that
donde
deals
están
with
creando
digital
la
innovation in
super app,
Uruguay.
donde
Well, they're
básicamente se van a
creating the
poder
super
hacer
app
trámites
where
como
basically
tramitar
you will be able
pasaporte, crear
to
historias
do
clínicas,
some paperwork, such as
temas de
apply
fiscos
for a
para el pago
passport,
de GI,
check your medical
eso es
history,
lo que es
tax issues with the tax authority
impuestos.
here in the country.
Digamos que centralizo
Um,
todo lo que es la vida del
so
ciudadano
everything that is
en
necessary
una
for a
aplicación.
citizen that lives in Uruguay
Eh,
is centralized
Otro
in one
ejemplo
application.
más enfocado a
Another
retail,
example, which
más,
is
digamos,
more in the
aplicaciones
retail
de
realms
e-commerce
and the
de alta
e-commerce realms,
línea,
is
que se
the
llama
case of
GeneX y
El
que
Genio
recientemente
X,
también
which
cumplió
is
sus
very
2 años de
popular
Super
in
App
Bolivia,
y
and
ha
that
hecho primera mini
they
app
have
en Uruguay,
recently
es esta
turned
app
their
que ven
application
en las
into a super app,
pantallas.
and they have their own mini app
Todo lo que es compra de
already,
tickets
which
se
is for
puede
tickets.
hacer
So if you want to buy a ticket,
desde resolver desde este mismo
you can just
ecosistema
do that
del
within
e-commerce
that
que está creando
same
Genio X.
ecosystem.
Así que estos son básicamente algunos de los
So
ejemplos.
these are some of the
El caso de
examples.
Itaú
The case of Itaú
es uno de los más completos al día
might
de
be one
hoy.
of the
Es,
most
ya les
complete
informé
examples, and it's the one
mucho
that
de
Rodrigo shared with
la
you when he walked
barriga.
you through the different
Así que
steps.
básicamente acá le paso de vuelta
And now
el
I'll
micrófono para que veamos un
hand
poquito
it
más
back
de la
to
solución
Rodrigo so that he can tell us a bit more about the
y
solution and the
compartir
different
la
components
solución.
in that solution.
Bien, gracias, Leandro. Quería aprovechar a comentarles también que estuvimos presentes
Thank you so
de
much,
GeneXus
Leandro. I
hace
wanted to
2
tell you
semanas en
that
Miami, que era un
some
evento
2 weeks ago we were in
banking
Miami
y de
at an
fintech,
event,
¿ok?
which was a
Y
banking and
nos
fintech
llamó la
event,
atención,
and we were greatly
aparte de
surprised
que vimos que hay un común
specifically by the
denominador
fact that we saw that there is
de necesidades
something common to
donde
the needs that
todas
all
pueden
fintech
tener
companies
su
have,
propia base de clientes, su
which
propia
is that
red
they
de
have
clientes
their own
que le ofrecen
portfolio
servicios
of
financieros
clients to
y
which they offer financial
están
services,
constantemente
and they're
buscando de ver
constantly
cómo
seeking
fidelizar a esa base de
to
clientes para no perderla con
increase customer loyalty so that they
competencia que
don't
hay en el mercado.
lose those clients
Muchísimas empresas que
to their
tienen
competitors. There are
billeteras
many companies
digitales
that have digital
y que
wallets and that
necesitan de
they
alguna
need
forma mantener
in some way
esa base
to
de
keep
clientes.
that client
Entonces, ¿cuál es el camino
database.
natural,
So,
digamos, que
what
esas empresas
is the
necesitan
natural
buscar
path
y
that those
ofrecerle a sus
companies
clientes?
have
Y son
chosen to
estos
follow?
que
Well, to
necesitan
offer
una
you
billetera
to offer
digital
their
con la cual
clients
tienen pago.
different products and services
Entonces,
through that digital wallets
es
that they have already implemented,
tremendo
which
por
is, of course, a great fit
de crear estos ecosistemas digitales
for this
y de hecho
proposal of creating these
está
digital
confirmado que el
ecosystems.
mercado está
And in
sonriendo.
fact, the
Nosotros
market
estamos viendo
itself
muchas de
is
estas empresas
proving us right, because we have
que ya
bumped into
tienen en el
a number of
roadmap
people in these companies
una
where
super app
in their
y
roadmap they tell us that they are thinking about
aplicaciones existentes
um,
en una super
creating a super app or turning a successful application into a super app. And we have also come across a number of people that are part of IND teams, R&D teams. But yeah, this is just to tell you that we're talking about something that is relatively urgent. It's not going to happen sometime soon. It is already here. And companies are already trying to find different ways to implement this kind of ecosystem so that they can increase customer loyalty and that they can um, have more revenue through the different partnerships that they have.
Un poco para pasar a comentarles cómo es que está armada esta solución y darles un poquito
So
más
how
de
does
contexto
this solution look like from a
sobre
more
la
technical
propuesta, digamos, que tiene
point of view, and to
GeneXus.
give you a bit more
Vamos a
context
pasar a ver
of our
ahí
proposal at GeneXus?
cómo está compuesta la solución de Super Apps.
So this is the Super Apps solution.
Partiendo un poco más desde un aspecto general sobre el concepto de Super Apps, el concepto de
Okay,
Super
so
Apps
starting on a
se
general note,
refiere a una aplicación que generalmente es una
super apps
aplicación
are
móvil, o sea
applications
que
that
a
are
terceros
usually
a través de
mobile
los dispositivos
applications
móviles. ¿Ok?
to which we have access through
El
our
hecho de esa
mobile
aplicación que
devices.
configuran en Super App es lo que le va a
And the
permitir
fact
al
that that
usuario
application
acceder a
is
distintos tipos
made
de
into a
servicios
super app
adicionales
is what
en la
will
medida
give the
de los
user
gustos
the
de
possibility of
Google
accessing
o
different kinds of
aplicaciones,
services.
digamos,
The cases of
conceptualmente.
Google and Uber are
Cambia un poco
conceptually a
cómo
super app,
se van
but
implementando
it
esos
is
servicios.
slightly
O
different
sea,
in terms of
esos sistemas
how they're
y cómo
implemented
van escalando a
indoors
medida que
and
van
how they
agregando servicios,
scale
¿no? Entonces,
as they
qué
add
tan
different
mantenibles se
services.
van a volver esos sistemas o qué
So
tan escalables
how
son
uh,
por consecuencia, una vez que
easy to
empiezan
maintain
a
are
empezar
these systems, or how
cada vez a
scalable
agregar
they are
más
once they start to
servicios
grow and they
móviles
start to add more services?
aplicaciones, satélites o esas
Well, that's
funcionalidades que van agregando.
that's a very interesting question.
Entonces, yendo un poco ahora desde cuál es nuestra visión con el desarrollo de estos ecosistemas desde la perspectiva de
So,
GeneXus,
trying to share our
básicamente
vision at
podríamos
GeneXus with these
transformar
ecosystems,
aplicaciones ya
we have the
existentes en una
possibility
super app o
to
crear otras
turn already
aplicaciones
existing
en el
applications
caso
into
de
super
los
apps, or we
desarrollos
can
que
create
tenemos.
our own super
Tenemos la
apps. If you want
plataforma
to
de
create
software
your own super
tradicional
app,
que ya
you
tiene
have GeneXus
todas
development
las
platform that
funcionalidades
already
que van a
includes all the
permitir
features
crear este
that
ecosistema
will allow you to
de la
create
forma
this
que los
kind of
desarrolladores de
ecosystem
GeneXus están
in the
acostumbrados
way
a hacer
that
su desarrollo
GeneXus developers are used to
para esta
working
aplicación.
whenever
¿Ok?
they develop
¿Qué es lo que
mobile,
nosotros
native
vamos a
mobile
poder hacer
GeneXus
cuando
apps?
ya sea creamos una super app desde cero o convertimos
So whether you're doing
una
it from
aplicación ya
scratch
existente
or
que
you're
pueda haber
just
sido
converting an
creada
already
con otro
existing
dispositivo,
application into
no
a super app
necesariamente
that
tiene
may
que
have
ser
been
a
created
través de GeneXus.
with
Podemos
other
transitar
technologies, not
de
necessarily
una tienda
with
de
GeneXus,
iOS o de
well,
Android
because
o
yeah,
incluso
you
de
can
cualquier
take
otra
native
plataforma
iOS or
como
Android
Flutter
applications, or
o
even
Native y vamos a tener
Flutter
acceso
or React
a que
native
convertir
applications,
esas aplicaciones
and
en
you
super apps.
can turn that application into a super
¿Cuál
app.
es el componente clave del lado de la aplicación que
So
nos va
what's
a
the key
permitir
component
eso?
on the
Es el super
application
app
side that will
render.
allow you to do
Render
that?
básicamente es
That's the super app
una
render, which
library
is
que se
basically
incluye
a
dentro
library
de la
that
aplicación
is
y que lo que va
included
a permitir
within the
es que esa
application
aplicación
that
pueda
what it
renderizar
does
las
is it
distintas
allows that
mini apps
application
que se
to
van a poder
dynamically
crear.
render the
¿Ok?
different mini apps that are created.
Estas mini apps, ¿qué particularidad van a tener? Que van a
So
estar en
what's
una tienda propia
uh,
que es
particular
exclusiva
about
y
these
parte de la
mini
solución
apps? That they will all be
y que
in
lo vamos a poder
the
manejar independientemente una
applications
de la
store,
otra.
which is called the Mini
Lo
App
único que quiero
Center, and
decir
they can be
respecto al super app
independently
es que nos
managed
va a
from
dar
one
esa
another and also
flexibilidad para poder
independent from the
escalar,
super app.
digamos,
So that gives
diferentes
you that
productos que
leeway to
nosotros
scale
necesitemos
up the number of
sin
products and services
convertir
that you
a la
offer
super app
without
en una
turning that
aplicación
super app
grande que
into
eventualmente
a
se
huge
transforme en
application that may
insuficiente. ¿Por qué?
eventually
Porque nosotros vamos a
uh,
poder
become very hard
configurar
to
esa super
maintain.
app
Because in the
primero
same
con
way
las tiendas
that
de
you
esas
work with
aplicaciones, vamos a tener nuestra
the
propia tienda
different
oficial, que es el Mini App Center,
shops,
y
we're
ahí
going to
vamos a
have
poder
our own
empezar a registrar
um,
mini apps. ¿Ok? Hay todo un
our
proceso
own
en el cual
store in
esas mini
in
apps van
the
a pasar dentro del
super app,
sistema
and that's where
y
you're
nos
going to
van a
manage
permitir a nosotros
the mini apps.
utilizarlas
So
y
what this is going to let you do is
publicarlas dentro de
you
nuestro
can go
ecosistema.
through
De esa
them and you
forma
can
vamos a
publish
poder
them
estar
within the super app.
agregando, digamos, a la velocidad que querramos esas
So you
mini
can
apps.
add
¿Por qué? Porque esto,
applications
digamos,
at
funciona por
whatever
fuera del
speed you
entorno
want.
comercial. ¿Qué
Why?
es lo que
Because
generalmente
this
ocurre cuando se desarrolla una
is not
aplicación
in the
para un
traditional stores.
dispositivo
So normally what
móvil?
happens when you develop an
Esa
application for a
aplicación
mobile
solamente la
device
queremos disponibilizar
is
para
that
los
if you want
dispositivos
to make that application
Android, por
available
ejemplo, la vamos
um, for example, Apple devices, you need to publish that
Y en el caso
in the App Store. And
análogo para Android, nosotros lo
the same
hacemos
thing goes for
a
Android.
Google
You
o
need
nos
to
envía
have it on the Google Play Store or
Cuestión es que
whatever.
cuando se generan las aplicaciones mobile, y esto es
So when you generate these mobile applications,
paralelo a todo lo que es la solución de Super Apps, cuando se genera cualquier
and this is
aplicación,
in
nosotros
parallel
lo que
with
hacemos
the
es
Super
publicar
Apps
y
solution, you need
la
to
gente
publish
de
that
Google y de
application,
gente que se
and
encarga de
both the
revisar
guys
el
that
código
manage
de
Google
Apple
Play and
van
manage
a
the App Store will
aceptar o a rechazar esa aplicación.
accept or reject
Se van
that
a encargar de que
application.
funcione
Yeah.
según
So
todos
they
los
will
lineamientos que tienen de lo que es una
make
aplicación
sure that the
social.
application is
Esa
working
persona
according
generalmente
to their
lleva un
guidelines,
director
and
técnico
then
de
they
negocio.
might approve it.
¿Ok?
And this is a
Nosotros
process that may
cuando
take up
programamos
to two
también
weeks. So what is
la
it?
Super App,
What is great about it transforming an application into a super app?
nuevos
That
servicios,
all those mini apps
actualizamos
that
los
you
sistemas
may add
de
eventually, all these new
sistemas, como es
services
en el caso de
that you
Itaú,
make available in this
también
ecosystem, such as the
Movie
case that we saw
Center
with
para
Itaú
las entradas de
and the
cine
movie center
o
application for
para
the
que
cinema
nosotros podamos
tickets, or
hacerle
the
creer a las
Moscow, which
familias
is
rápidamente que
this
hoy podemos
stationary
empezar
retail
el
company.
proceso de
You just
aprobación
create the mini apps and you don't need
y
to go
entonces
through the
de
approval
Apple y
process,
de Google.
uh,
¿Ok? Nosotros
whether
vamos a
it's
poder
App Store or
revisar
Google Play Store.
internamente en esta tienda
You
privada
will
la Super App
internally
y
check
poder
this
ganarle
in your own
publicamente
private store, and
la Super App. Solo vamos a tener que
then you
pasar
can
por el
just
proceso de revisión de
make it
tiendas oficiales
available. You
cuando
just
nos
need to
metamos
go
dentro
through
del
the
servicio.
revision
Lo
processes with
que
the
nosotros
official stores
aconsejamos
if you
hacer,
make any changes to the
imagínense
super app.
que cuando
So
estén
imagine, for example, for the case of Ito,
la Super App,
that
que se haga algún
as I
cambio
was
dentro de la Super App, ya sea de
going through the super
definición,
app,
de
that
todo lo
something
que ves
changes there, whether
que
it's
se mueva
buttons
dentro de la Super
or
App,
events
ahí sí
or
va a tener que
whatever,
ser
anything that happens there, that
republicada
needs to be
internamente. ¿Ok? ¿Qué
republished
es lo que nos da esta ventaja?
in the store. What is the advantage
Cuando
of
nosotros
this?
no hagamos cambios en la Super App, vamos a poder
That
ser muy
if you
veloces
don't
y
make
mejorar
any
y
changes
poder
to the super
generar
apps,
estas
you
mini
can
apps
be
y
very
utilizarlas dentro de
fast
nuestros
when it comes to
dispositivos.
creating
En el caso de
new
Itaú,
super apps and
ellos
making them
tienen
available.
una estrategia donde van a incorporar
Um,
10 servicios nuevos en los próximos 3 meses. Una vez que
so,
desarrollen
for
esos
example, if
servicios
you
y
have a
estén en
strategy
red,
that is
lo van
planning
a
to
poder tener
incorporate
en
10 new
instantáneamente cada
services in
uno
the
dentro
next
de
three
de
months,
Itaú
the
sin
moment
tener
that
que
they
pasar
get
por una
approved,
revisión
they are
internamente
published
necesaria.
in the
También
Itaú
tenemos
super
esa
app without
información
having
muy
to have it
prioritaria
checked in
respecto
the official stores. Is
a
that
qué
clear?
velocidad
Because that, I think, is
vamos
one
a
of the
tener para
greatest
poder
advantages
hacer
that we
escalar
have
y
when it
avanzar
comes to the
ese
speed that
sistema
we
en cuanto a la
uh,
cantidad de productos y de
can
servicios
make
que
this
seamos
scale
capaces
up
a la
in
base de
terms of the
datos.
number of products
¿Ok?
and services that you're
Otra cosa
offering
muy importante es que estas mini
um,
apps nosotros
to the
vamos
user
a poder
database.
no solo crearlas de cero, sino que también reutilizar recursos existentes,
This
assets
uh,
existentes. Vamos a poder, por ejemplo,
means that you can also
crear
reuse
una mini
existing
aplicación mobile
assets, right? So
que
you
sea
can
nativamente
create a mini app that
en
is
el caso de
mobile
Movie, por ejemplo,
and that is going to
estamos
look
aprendiendo a
native
que esa carga
in the mini app. So the
de
case of
recursos
Movie
sea
Center, uh,
una mini app mobile nativa que se estaba cargando
that is a
directamente. Por
native
ejemplo,
mini app
temas de red tickets
that was
para
being dynamically
reservas
loaded.
de los
But the case that
eventos
we saw for
es una
red
mini app que
tickets,
es
which
una
is for
web app que se
to buy
encarga
tickets
de cómo
to
crear. Entonces,
for different
cada
events, that is a web
proveedor puede
application that
hacer
is
mini apps
loaded as a
para
mini app.
reuso,
So
por
you have
ejemplo,
the
de
chance
almacenes web
uh,
existentes y siempre van
to
a estar haciendo
you can make
reconocimiento de
these
los
mini apps
idiomas
reuse
dentro de
existing applications, and they
de
will
la
always
aplicación.
be leveraging
En
all
el
the
caso,
backend
por ejemplo,
services
de Movie Center que
that
vimos
you
en la
have. In
mini
the
app,
case of Movie Center, for
estaba
instance,
la
that we
interfaz
saw
de
that mini
todo
app,
ese catálogo de
you
películas
have that black interface where you have the different movies,
los horarios
but
disponibles y los asientos disponibles,
when it
y
comes
todo ese
to the
informe y
times
ese
and the
know-how
seats, all of
son
that
ya
is
existentes
information that is
en
taken
ese
from
Movie
already
Center.
existing systems
Entonces nos
that
permite a nosotros
Movie
hacer
Center has,
que desde la
which
mini
is
app
what basically
estemos
allows you
viendo
to,
tanto la
from
cantidad
the
de
mini
asientos
app,
disponibles, asientos disponibles
see
en
the
ese
same
momento
number of
en el
available
momento.
seats
¿Ok? ¿Por qué? Porque
as if you
toda
were
la
seeing it
información
from any
viene
other
saliendo
kind of portal,
de
because all of
distintos
the
sistemas
information
de
is
backend o de
centralized in the
reposición.
same backend
¿Ok? Entonces,
systems. Uh,
básicamente
and
va a
well,
ser muy rápido también el proceso de que nosotros convirtamos nuestra aplicación en una super app
this
y que
process then
podamos
of
empezar a crear
converting
rápidamente
your
esa
application
mini
into
app para
super app
poder
is
ofrecer
really
servicios
fast, and that
¿ok?
allows you to create
Entonces,
mini apps
lo
really
importante es que hay
fast and really
dentro de estos tres
really soon, so that you can
componentes
start
que
offering
comentamos
services.
es,
So you
por un lado, la
have
super app
three main
que vamos
components
a
in the
poder
solution. First, you have the super app, which has
publicarse por
this
esta tienda
super
privada
app render that
y
allows you to
acceder
connect to a
y
private
generar todas las mini apps
store, which is the
que
Mini App Center,
necesitamos
and to
dentro
load all the different
de
mini
esa
apps that
tienda
are registered
privada. ¿Ok?
in that
Para poder
private
ofrecerlas
store.
dinámicamente.
so that they are
Un poco para
dynamically
mencionar algunas de las cosas
visualized.
pueden hacer respecto a la tecnología con super apps que nosotros brindamos desde GeneXus.
Just to tell you a bit about the super apps tech things that you can do, as I was telling you, an application may be transformed into a super app regardless of the technology in which it was developed. So you can be talking about native mobile technologies or other technologies such as React Native and Flutter, which allows you to turn already existing applications into super apps. And this is a process that becomes very short. And in just 2 weeks' time, you may have an application uh, which now is a super application. For those projects where you're going to build a super app from scratch in GeneXus, that is also possible. Then we have this new object that is called the super app object. This is a GeneXus project where you have a super app project, and basically as a GeneXus developer, when I'm creating a super app, I'm working just like I would with any other kind of work with GeneXus, defining the model and the technologies in which I will generate the application. But what I do have now is this object, and I'm going to set some connection properties with that instance, with those instances, or that instance of the mini app center, which is a private entity. And I'm going to be saying that this is a mini app that is mapped with all the with the super app that I have defined and all the different mini apps that are part of it. So let me quickly show you this internal super app that we have so that you can see how all of this ties together. And then we're going to see this from GeneXus.
Ahí apareció, bien.
Sí, sí, perfecto.
Sí.
This is a super app that we developed internally at GeneXus. And this is kind of like our sandbox. And here we access to a specific mini app, which is like a coffee house, a cafe. And you have different products and you can buy them and you can add them to a cart. So this super app is the project that I previously showed you on GeneXus. Verdant Bank would be the super app, and there you have the different mini apps. All the things that are happening here is that what we are dynamically loading is a mobile application that was developed using GeneXus. And this mini app, for example, of an ice cream parlor, was loaded in that mini app center, and from the super app we dynamically load it. Yeah, so these are projects that generate native applications that we dynamically bring here to be visualized as mini apps. In terms of the development of this and how a developer uses GeneXus as a development platform, it's exactly the same way of working as you would have, as we have had for long when it comes to developing applications for phones. This is the super apps project. You have the super app object where you configure the connection to the mini app center. This is the mini app center. So this is basically where this is like your console where you're managing the shop and defining what super apps are active and can be found. And you can enable or disable mini apps. In this case, for example, we have 5 different mini apps, and each of these mini apps is, of course, all of this has a version control, and you can make different decisions as to whether the super app is for Android or iOS, and the same thing for mini apps. So here we're seeing the mini apps, but I can filter those mini apps that belong to a certain super app. So for example, I see that we have 6 mini apps registered within this main super app. These are probably disabled, and we can create new mini apps, and we can create different versions of these mini apps. So what we're going to be doing here basically is a definition at logical level of what is the mini app that we want to create. and what super app this will belong to. We will define the name and the description, and we can define some key criteria, some key elements that will allow you to create two categories so that when you log in on your super app, you can bring some specific categories of mini apps. So, for example, in the case of Bird and Bank, we can just say, okay, in this panel, I just want to see those mini apps that are for financial services, or in this panel, I would like to see retail mini apps. In this, I would like to see food or gastronomic services. So that is something that you do at the mini app center level, where you explain how the different mini apps will be displayed. Here we're going to say whether that mini app is a native or a web app, and you can also define a few resources that need to be made accessible from the super app. So all the different icons that you're seeing for the super app, such as having access to the ice cream parlor, which was that popsicle, the icon. Well, that is all defined here, and you can bring those resources to explain where they're going to be shown. Of course, these super apps, as we create them, will have changes that will imply incorporating new features, and this is all going to be defined in new versions of one same mini app. And this mini app, both at the time of its creation or when you make any kind of changes or when you go through maintenance processes, that's going to go through a revision process where the user that uh, goes to the different shops that uh, has things to be revised can approve or reject those changes that will have a direct impact on the super app without having to go through the store. So it's not just the fact that you can add mini apps and that's going to be easier, but the maintenance of these mini apps is also going to be much easier because it doesn't um, require that you go through the whole official revision process of either the App Store or the Google Play Store. Yeah. Okay, so what we have here for each mini app is you have the different versions, as you can see, different changes that have been made. You see that you have the status for each of the platforms. We have version 4, um, which is ready or enabled, and other 4 versions which are disabled. And this gives you the chance to just go back and maybe enable previous versions if for any reason you need to go to a previous version, whether it's design or uh, usability. Well, it's very easy. And here you have some tools that will allow you to test the integration between the mini app and the super app. So in this case, for example, you have a review or a revision QR code that even though it is not public, you can load it so that you can try the integration because you're going to have some interoperability components. Remember that in the case of Itaú, we followed the whole flow. And at the end of it, when it came to paying, you were using a payment method. That is precisely because these interoperability components are defined from the native project where you have the super app already defined or the GeneXus projects. Specifically through this super app object that you can see here, I'm not just configuring this project to correspond to a certain super app that is published in the store, but also what I'm saying is what the APIs exposed by that super app are. So what are these methods or APIs? These are those interoperability points that you will have between the different mini apps. In particular, in the case of Itaú or Verdant Bank, which was the sandbox application, you have one method exposed, which is the payment method. So because of the purpose of the super app, which is an ecosystem where you offer different products or services by third parties, that as a user, you can have access to some of this stuff and buy that stuff. what each mini app is going to be doing is it's going to be calling that payment method to process a payment. And that's where the mini app sends that to the super app. It says, this is as far as I go. This is my card. And I have a purchase of $1,500. And now I'm going to call the super app for it to process that payment. So basically, on the one hand, you have the super app exposing these APIs, and each mini app, as they need it, they will be calling those APIs. And this means that all the management of the super app and payments and information that needs to go back to the super app, that all of this is managed from the super app itself in one single point, and you don't need to implement it several times within your mini apps. So what happens when you develop a mini app? In the case of GeneXus, you have to import this module to determine what part of your mini app you will be calling this payment method. So this is another GeneXus project where you have the ice cream parlor that we accessed from the mini app, and you see that as a reference, you have the imported module that was published from the super app. So this gives you the possibility to define where you're going to be implementing this call. If you go to references here, for instance, you will see that the payment call is made specifically in this My Card panel. This is the mini app project, and this is the module that was exposed, which is in the checkout part. And here we're calling the payment part. So when you get to the mini app internally, it will be calling the method that's going to guide the user through the payment process. Of course, that this is the specific payment method because of the super app scenario that we saw, but you could be talking about any kind of method that allows for information exchange between a super app and a mini app. So all these projects that we are seeing are very scalable because you can make changes and you can quickly upload those new versions so that you have them dynamically in the super app without having to go through the official stores, and you're capable of giving it some very fast maintenance by implementing new changes and uploading new versions. Needless to say, we're also going to have those interoperability points, which are the ones that will be nourishing the super app with features for the different services and products that um, are defined as mini apps. So let's quickly go through these slides, which is a bit of what I told you. And when it comes to the mini app center, we have that for all the mini app governance, and this can be as a service or it can be a cloud development kit where you install within your own infrastructure this mini app center. This is the delivery part of the solution. Of course, that app that you can develop from scratch or that you can reconvert, both work. And for mini apps, you can take web apps that already exist, or you can develop them with GeneXus using mobile technologies, yeah, native mobile technologies. So this is just a wrap up of the solution. And now let's close and we can have those questions at the end.
Gracias.
Thank you, Rodrigo.
Sí, en realidad, bueno, a ver, ni les comparto
I'm
la
not even going to
presentación
share
que tiene
screen.
acá.
It's just one slide, but
Digamos, creo que a modo de reflexión, digamos, ustedes habrán podido ver
I think that
lo que
you
puede llegar a
must have
mejorar la
noticed how
experiencia del
much user
usuario
experience can
del
improve
sistema
with
del
this
super app y
super app mini app
esto creo que
scheme. I think that
es un gran cambio que
goes without
seguramente
saying, and it's a massive
vamos a
change
poder
that
ver
we
todos
will most
implementarlo
likely
en
be
nuestros
implementing with
clientes,
many of our customers
y en los proyectos en
and
los
in
que
many of the
estemos.
projects where we work.
Pero digamos, creemos también que
But
se
we
abren
also think that a
oportunidades
very
interesantes
interesting window is opening
para varios
for
stakeholders
different
en
stakeholders
en este tema.
in all of this.
Por
On
un
the one
lado,
hand, for
los,
instance, you
los
have
dueños del
super
supermercado
app
son un
owners
negocio en sí
for the
mismo,
business
una
itself.
forma
I think it's a great way to
es una oportunidad de hacer cross-selling,
cross-sell and
upselling,
upsell
es una oportunidad de generar más
and to have
revenue,
more
de generar
revenue
más
and increase
fidelidad
customer
de usuarios
loyalty
a nuestra
in your
aplicación
mobile
móvil.
application. So
Por el
that's
lado
one thing.
de los
When
socios
it
de
comes
negocio
to
también,
business partners,
digamos, aquellos, los que
those
serían los
that
dueños de
would
las,
be the
de las
mini app
apps, es la
owners,
posibilidad de hacer
this
más
is the chance to
más
be part of a
difusión
much larger ecosystem
y de dar a conocer
and
servicios,
to
productos
make some products or
a
services
través
known
a
through
través de este
this kind of
formato.
format.
Y por
And
último, también
last,
creemos que abre un
and
montón de
I think
oportunidades
this is
para
huge,
aquellos
it is a great
integradores, casas de
opportunity for
software,
software houses
desarrolladores
and
que,
developers and
digamos, de
integrators
alguna
that
manera van a participar de la
in
construcción
some way will be a
de
part
estos
of the
sistemas.
construction of these ecosystems.
La construcción de esas mini apps van a
So
requerir
building those mini apps will
mucho trabajo
definitely
también,
require a
mucho
lot
más
of work, even
simplificado
though it
usando
will be very
GeneXus
simplified because you're using
para la
GeneXus.
operación de negocios.
But yeah, you have an
Entonces creemos
ecosystem to
que
create, and
es un
we
mundo de
think it is a world
oportunidades
of
que abre
opportunities that is
para todos
opening
los
up
que estamos
before our eyes for
involucrados
all those of us
en una
who are
creación.
involved in creating mobile
Y
applications.
simplemente esto como
So
reflexión,
that
no
was
sé,
just
Jorge, si nos querías
a final
comentar
remark, and I don't know if there's anything else that you would like to say, Rodrigo, or otherwise we can just move on to the Q&A session.
preguntas.
Vayamos con las
Yeah,
preguntas.
let's
Por el tiempo,
get to
si
the
querés
questions
hacer una reflexión final al
for
cierre.
the sake of time.
Bien,
Okay,
tenemos
we have a
varias
few.
preguntas. Por ahí tenemos algunos
We have a couple of
usuarios
users
que levantaron
with
manos,
hands
pero en
raised, and
realidad
we're
tenemos
gonna give
a
them
Harold
priority. So
Gustavo
we have
Espinosa.
Gustavo Espinosa,
Harold,
Harold Gustavo.
te, te habilito para que puedas
Now
abrir
you
el
should be able
micrófono y hacer
to
tu
unmute and you
pregunta.
can ask your question out loud if you want.
Mientras Harold habilita el micrófono,
Okay.
igual había mandado
He
una
also
pregunta
wrote a
que
question,
decía,
which is
¿una super app
Is a
es un
super app an
aplicativo?
application?
Entra, entra en lo que es un
Is
ERP.
that comprised, is that an ERP?
No, no, no.
Sí, ahí en realidad, digamos, de la base
Dale,
que es,
Romet.
sí, es una aplicación
Yeah, it's a mobile
¿ok?
application.
Por
Yeah,
supuesto
so
que tiene
of course it
distintas
has
funciones.
different mini
Van a
apps,
poder cumplir diferentes
and these mini
funcionalidades,
apps
¿no?
can
Capaz que se
do
puede
different
desarrollar
things.
más en
So
lo
it
que es
may
una
look
super app
more like an
para
in-company
compañías.
super app
Tal
where
vez los
uh,
colaboradores de la
the different
compañía, dependiendo del
company
rol que
collaborators,
tengan,
depending on the
pueden
role
hacer
that they have,
distintas
might
funciones a través de
uh,
mini apps
do
que
things
pueden terminar
different things through
implementándose
mini apps
en
that
un
may
ERP, por ejemplo.
have eventually an impact on an
La fuerza
ERP.
de ventas
Maybe the
puede tener una mini
Salesforce
app donde sea
will have a
para
mini app that is to take
pagar los
requests
cobros
or
realizados y cada uno de esos
for
flujos
payments,
termina
and each of
impactando
these flows will
significativamente
have an impact on
cómo
an
arroja
ERP to keep
información
the information.
ante
Uh,
una
if you
auditoría que
have, for
hace
example, an
o para
audit,
poder
or if you
integrarla
want to
con otros
integrate that with
sistemas.
other systems. Great.
Perfecto. Tenemos a
We have
Fabián
Fabián
Bonilla.
Bonilla.
Adelante,
Fabián,
Fabián.
go
Puedes
ahead. You may
preguntar.
ask your question out
Abrir el
loud.
micrófono y preguntar. Bueno, mientras Fabián habilita su
Okay.
micrófono, tengo una
I have a
pregunta
question
de
by
Tiago
Tiago Negro from Brazil. He says, Good
Tiago,
afternoon.
¿todo
Hope
bien?
you're okay.
Las mini apps
Do these
obligatoriamente
mini
tienen
apps
que ser
necessarily
Windows o
need to be
pueden ser
GeneXus, or
de
can
otras
they be built
tecnologías.
with other technologies?
Tiago, no necesariamente tienen que
Okay,
ser
Tiago, they don't
GeneXus,
necessarily
pueden
need
ser
to
construidos
be
en muchos
made with
componentes en mobile,
GeneXus.
pero
They might, but
también pueden ser
they can
utilizadas
also you can also use
aplicaciones web ya
web
construidas
applications that you have
para
already
mobile
built
como
to load them
cualquiera de
as
esas
mini
apps
apps.
siempre
In
va a
either
facilitar su
scenario, you
uso
can
de todo
always
lo que es la parte de
use the whole
backend
back end
de esa
of that
aplicación, ¿no?
application.
Bien, tenemos por ahí una de
Okay, very
Orlando
good. We have
Martín
another
de
question by
Panamá.
Orlando Martin from Panama. It
Una
says,
de un
can
negocio
you integrate
se puede
a
integrar en
business
una mini app
app
o tiene que desarrollarse
as a
nuevo.
mini app, or does it need to be developed again?
Bueno, está
Yeah,
justamente
okay.
vinculado con lo que
It's
decía
basically
recién
what
justamente
Rodrigo
Fabián.
just said, right?
Creo que es
Okay, it's a very
parecida a la
similar
pregunta,
question.
digamos. Podemos reutilizar
We can
todo ahí todo
reuse
el backend para hacer
backend
una nueva
components to build a new
podría
one,
ser una web app que la listamos
Or
dentro del
you
Mini App
can
Center.
have a web app that is
Sí, de
listed
hecho,
in the Mini App Center, or you can just build an application from
Pregunto
scratch.
a Tony, que estuvo
Okay,
levantando la mano.
Tony,
Tony,
you were
¿tienes
raising your hand.
oportunidad de hablar?
You can
Cuando
ask your
quieras.
question out loud if you want.
Yes, I wanted to know if I need an extra license or the mini apps are like GXFlow and Gamba end within GeneXus, or I need an extra license for the super apps to build one.
Si tengo que tener licencia extra para eso.
I can answer that. I will answer in English then. Thank you, Tony.
Muy bien, voy a responder entonces en inglés. Tony, sí, necesitas. Sorry, remember that we have interpretation into English, so we can use the interpreter and you can just answer in Spanish if you don't mind.
Digamos, se precisa
Yes,
una
you
licencia
do need
extra.
an extra license.
Es un, les llamamos Super
Basically, we
Apps
call it
Engine,
Super Apps, Mini Apps NG
básicamente es un régimen de
engine,
suscripción
which
anual
is an annual subscription that includes all the components that Rodrigo mentioned before, such as the Super App Render and the Mini App Center.
dentro de ese, digamos, eso
So that is basically something that is marketed like that with a separate license. What you won't need is extra licenses for development. So with the licenses that you already have, you can develop the different mini apps. Yeah.
Perfecto.
Great. Perfect. Thank you, Leandro.
Tengo acá un par de preguntas
We
de
have a
Adrián
couple of
Rosales.
questions. Adrian
¿Hay
Rosales
algún
says,
limitante
is
en
there
cuanto
any kind of
al
standardized
diseño
definition when
o
it comes to
relación con
design
la mini app?
for mini apps?
Sé que se
I
comentó
know
que
that you said that
cada uno
each of
tiene
them
una
works
individualidad.
individually,
¿Podría
but do you have
explicar
any kind of
el diseño y la
limitations when it comes to
funcionalidad?
design
La segunda
and
pregunta es, en la
functionality? And then the second
versión
question is the different versions
tenemos
within the
un
App Center. Do
límite
you have a
de
limit of versions that you
aplicaciones,
can
como que es un límite de
upload?
aplicaciones.
Bien, contesto
Okay,
la
let me answer
segunda
those two
primero.
questions if you don't mind.
Respecto a lo que es el diseño,
When it comes to design, there are no limitations. Of course, the ideal scenario is that you can establish the flow that you want to uh, give the user within that mini app, and that will be a flow that offers benefits when it comes to speed compared to the experience that you may have with an additional application that you can download from one of the stores. In the case of the Movie Center application, that is just to get tickets for the movies. And another example of a mini app is where you want to buy something, you have the card, and you can just check out and make a payment there. So the idea is to have the experience as simplified as you can for the users. The idea is not to have a very complex mini app where you can do a number of things and you can get your users lost in the application. In turn, the idea is to have different mini apps and that each mini app will give specifically that user experience or that user journey when they're using it. When it comes to the second question, no, you have no limitations in the number of versions that you can define. So that's very positive. Of course, that is going to be managed from the Mini App Center, and you have GeneXus server for version management and change management. So you can manage those versions for the different projects. But yeah, I mean, you have different stages to manage all of this. Okay, very good. We have Alejandro Aníbal. He was raising his hand. You can speak. You can use your mic. Okay, in the meantime, we have Elkin that is asking us, hey, the Mini App Center, does it have an additional cost or is it included in the GeneXus license?
Sí, esa sí, creo, no me voy. Sí, es
That's
parecida
similar
a
to the
lo
question
que
that we got from Tony
también.
earlier.
Sí, es una
It
licencia
is a
aparte
separate
que incluye el Super App
license
Render
that
y
includes the
el
Super App
Center.
Render and the Mini App
Y
Center.
si
And if
querés
you
este tema
want to
en
take a look
detalle,
at this in further detail,
podemos
you can just
contactarnos
reach
después
us,
también
and yeah, we can walk you through it in,
pero sí,
in more
básicamente es una
detail.
licencia
But yeah, it's
aparte
its
de lo que
separate
usamos para desarrollar.
license than the development license. Alejandro, yeah, go ahead. Good afternoon. I wanted to ask two questions. Is there any kind of documentation where all this scheme is clearly explained. And the second question, the mini apps and super apps, the external mini apps. If you have a different web design and you want to incorporate that in your scheme, does that have to follow a specific format?
Bueno, voy por la primera, el tema de la documentación está disponible.
Okay, so the documentation is available on the wiki. You can find information about that.
Después tenemos
And then we have a lot of content that has been released in the different events that we've had. We had one presential November last year and some online events where you get into further details in terms of, for example, how to market this and the technical aspects of these solutions. So, of course, you will find a lot of material there. And if you have any further questions, you can just reach us and we can point you in the right direction so that you can get your answers. Regarding the second question, which is the integration of mini apps from already existing web applications, it is kind of like the same concept that we discussed in terms of design in the previous question. The idea is to design those web applications so that they can give a useful experience to the user and that
expeditiva, digamos,
they will
que el usuario hace en la mini app, ¿no?
they will expedite what the user
Ahí generalmente lo que vamos a
does
hacer es tomar ya
on the mini app. So you can take already existing web applications and you can make available some parts of those web applications to give that encapsulated user experience. And of course, in that case, you're going to have to work on the integration that you have with this web application for exchange of information and that you can redirect the users whenever necessary to the super app. Okay, we have another question here from Wellington Pontes. It says, how do you publish this mini app to the different stores and how do you integrate that with already existing applications? Okay, so the mini apps are only registered in the mini app center, not the official stores. What will be in the official stores, the super app only. Yeah. So it's those super apps. And whenever there is a change, that is going to go through the official store so that the users can have the new version of the super app. Regarding mini apps, you're just going to load those and the different versions within the mini app center, and that's what gives you these mini apps readily available and their changes are approved. Okay, very good. We have a number of questions about documentation, different courses, and different examples. So I think that we could be answering several questions at the same time. Yes, of course. On the wiki, GeneXus, you can find a lot of documentation and content that has been created in the different events. As an example, we can make different examples available, whether it's in those cases in which you want to convert an already existing application into a super app, and we can give you a trial access to a mini app center so that the super app where you're running this concept test will connect with with an existing mini app center that has already a few mini apps loaded that can be used for testing, and you can of course register new mini apps. So of course you can do some testing in that sense. Okay, we have a very interesting question here, which is by Hiram Kabad, and he says, is the super app only a container of mini apps, or is it an application that may have a functionality in and of itself? Yes, it's a very interesting question. I actually wanted to answer that one. Thank you, Hiram, because it's going to help us to give a lot of context of what a super app is. A super app, it's not just a mini app container. You can have access to those mini apps, but it also has its own features that were defined when it was created, when you were working in that project. In the case of Itaú, for example, that Itaú payments application, the main feature of that super app is what also allows you in turn to register new services. For example, from that super app, you can pay your bills, you can have automatic debits or credits. So that is something that is orchestrated for that Itaú super app. for that Itaú application. And when you turn that into a super app, that will include the access to the different services provided by third parties. Okay? Okay, very good.
Eh, mediamente breve.
Okay, very good.
Quisiera hacer un
I would
resumen.
like
¿Qué
just to
necesidades se
summarize
resuelven a nuestros
what
clientes
are the needs that are
por Juan Verguero?
solved
Bien,
for the end
para,
user.
para hacer un
Yeah, I
resumen,
think it's a good
los
question just
beneficios que
to
ofrecen
wrap
estas
up.
super apps van por tres
We
categorías.
have
Uno es
three
a nivel
different kinds of
de
benefits.
la
First,
empresa que
at
tiene la super app,
company
que
level,
básicamente lo que
where
hace
what's happening
es
basically is
hacer la
that
super app capaz
this super app is going to give it's going to give you the chance to increase customer loyalty and also to generate more revenue from different businesses. In this Itaú super app that we saw, most likely
digamos, entre los socios de negocio de Itaú,
amongst the different partners, you have agreements to be a part of that ecosystem. And of course, those agreements will take place between the super app owner and the different partners that are going to be integrated in that super app in the form of mini apps. And there you have absolute leeway, absolute liberty as an owner. Maybe in an internal super app, you don't have that kind of scenario, but in an integration kind of super app, you can use these agreements to generate more revenue. This is at the level of the businesses. At the level of end users, so as an Itaú client, what I'm getting is that I don't need to download a number of applications. I don't need to download the movie application or the Moscow application or the Red Tickets application to have access to these services, but rather I can do that directly from the Itaú Payments Super App, where you have your payment methods already registered. So it's a much more straightforward solution for you as an end user, which in turn uh, results in me having a greater loyalty as a customer uh, towards Itaú. And then from the development point of view, it is much more flexible and scalable when you want to develop these systems. In the case of Itaú, they have 5 or 6 mini apps, and they are all developed independently. So as we saw, that is independent GeneXus projects that are uploaded as versions that are not connected to the other mini apps, just to the super app. And this means that companies may have a strategy that is implemented at greater speed so that they can scale up. If tomorrow Ito feels like adding 10 new mini apps, it is going to be much faster and much easier to add those new 10 products or services than if we had to work with a team that keeps on adding components to an already existing, an already existing application that keeps on getting bigger and bigger. So it's going to be much more difficult to add new components and to maintain those new components. And it's also going to be more challenging to remove those components, because that means that you need to review that it's not going to affect the whole application stability. So from the development perspective, that is also very beneficial.
Perfecto. Ahora sí, vamos
Okay, very good. Last questions. Last question. We are well past
la
time.
super app, como la mini app,
Super app and mini
¿cómo
apps,
es
do they need to be
para el
responsive?
desarrollo del casino?
En realidad, digamos, partimos de la super app como aplicación nativa hecha con
Okay, so we use different applications made
Así que, o sea, ahí
with
parte
different
de
technologies.
digamos,
So
un poco para las aplicaciones web
that
que
is
sí
more
pueden ser
the responsive side of the question, I think, goes more for the web applications that could be included as many apps. And of course, they have to be responsive, and you can create those web applications in GeneXus, and you can include that, because you know that if you develop with GeneXus, that is web responsive applications. And with GeneXus, you can already define different layouts if you're working with mobile objects, so that you can create those experiences where you can define how this application, this mobile application, is going to look like, and the different device sizes and the different orientations of your devices. So of course, this gives you a very good user experience, not just from the super app, but considering the different possibilities that you have to define many apps, whether they are web or mobile. Great. We have so many questions that we have still unanswered. We will be sending them to you, Leandro and Rodrigo, so that you can answer them by email. Thank you, everyone, so much for your participation. Thank you so much for being a part of this. And you will have it uploaded at genexus.com/webinars. You can find this webinar about super apps and all the webinars that we've been doing for the last couple of years. So thank you so much for joining, and I'll see you next time. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Gracias. Chao.
Chau, chau.
Gracias.